It is time for Political Breakfast. We're live this morning with Democratic strategist Tharon Johnson and Republican strategist Brian Robinson. The race for Georgia governor consists of a pretty crowded field, and now it's even more congested. Billionaire businessman Rick Jackson, founder and CEO of Alpharetta-based Jackson Healthcare, launched his campaign for the Republican nomination with this campaign ad.
I donated $1 million to Trump because Trump's success inspired me to do this for Georgia.
All right. Good morning to both of you, Brian and Tharon. Glad to have you here. Brian, let's start with you. What are your reactions? What do we know about this billionaire?
It's very hard to make a splash in the governor's race, and Rick Jackson has done it, particularly for an outsider coming in at this juncture of the race. He is doing what you have to do to be relevant. He is spending a lot of money, saying he'll spend between $40 and $50 million on this primary, and that's over a very short period of time. He's somebody who's well known in political circles because he's been a major donor, not only to politics, but also to foster care and adoption efforts. He's someone who was in and out of the foster care system himself as a child and is just dedicated and passionate about giving those kids better opportunities in life. So we're going to see a lot from Rick Jackson in the coming days. He's already put down more than $3 million on a TV buy, so you're going to be seeing that on your TV screens soon. He has bought a Super Bowl ad on every market in Georgia for this Sunday. So that'll get a lot of eyeballs and a lot of chatter. This is an earthquake within this race. And I really didn't foresee, if you had asked me on Monday when we taped, if I saw an earthquake coming, I would have said absolutely not. The field is set. But somebody got in this week, this late in the game, and they are a legitimate challenger to win this nomination, no doubt about it.
All right, Tharon, you get in here. Democrats, are they seeing this as an earthquake?
Well, I think that, we got to really step back and do a little bit more research on Rick Jackson. I've had the pleasure of meeting him a few times, Lisa. I've actually met with him before, and really is a low-key, behind-the-scenes guy. Now, you talk to him, he's definitely opinionated. I mean, you look at his road to success. He's an entrepreneurial minded person. He's made now billions of dollars by placing doctors all across the country. He's a resource. And when you meet him, Lisa, just to kind of go a little deeper than what B-Rob was saying, is that he don't really strike you as this Trumpian sort of Republican. Matter of fact, I didn't even know Rick was a Republican because, a lot of times when I have conversations with people, I don't lead with, hey, are you a Republican or Democrat? But I can't find a Republican, Lisa and Brian. I don't think Brian can either, that knew that this was coming. I mean, this has been the best kept political secret in Georgia in a very, very long time. And for you to have that much money committed, to already have videos created, to have an apparatus in place, there's been a lot of planning that's been going on. There's several people that B-Rob and I know that are behind this campaign. And the one, I'm just left with a lot of questions. The first question is, what is Donald Trump going to do, right? He has endorsed Burt Jones, but Rick Jackson has given money to a lot of Republicans, not only in the state of Georgia, but across the country. He taunts that he gave him $1 million, Trump $1 million. And then the second question I have is that, will Rick Jackson have a Mike Bloomberg moment? Lisa, we've seen when billionaires get in a debate and they go up against people that say crazy things to them, talk to them in a very disrespectful way. How will he respond? Well, we've seen our first glimpse into the Jackson campaign. Keisha Lance Bottoms released a statement about his candidacy, and he clapped back in a very strong way against her. So a lot will come. We got to see how he'll continue to run his campaign, but he's definitely a force, and I agree with B-Rob. It's an earthquake to Georgia politics.
Yeah, Brian, he said things like no more free rides for people who refuse to work. Do you think that's good messaging during the economy that we're experiencing right now?
We are in an economy where there are pressures on working families with price increases and inflation and lack of affordable housing. But we are not in an economy where people can't get jobs. And what he is saying there speaks to the Republican primary electorate very effectively. The primary electorate in Georgia is very conservative and, significantly more conservative than a general election electorate, just as the Democratic primary in Georgia is much more liberal than a general election electorate. So you have to, in every case, make part of your argument for your electability your conservative bona fides, your shared conservative principles and values. So though that is one element of how he is telling Georgia Republicans how he's one of them, aligning himself with the record of Donald Trump, saying, this was a billionaire businessman who got in to make a difference. I was inspired by that. I, too, am a billionaire businessman. I think I can make a difference. And we even saw a parallel yesterday with his big rally where he rode down from a glass elevator into the audience the way that Trump rode down the gold escalator in 2015.
Right.
So he is signaling in several ways, I am one of you, I share your values, and I can go win this thing in November.
Can he win, though, Tharon, saying things like you want to sit on your blank, binge, watch Netflix and scarf down Cheetos and do it with your own money? Can you win with that kind of messaging,
Lisa,
outside of being Trump?
Nice guy. Yeah, I mean, he's a nice guy. B-Rob and I have mutual friends that have seen all the work that he's done. I mean, he's very passionate about foster care. You know, he's a foster care child himself. He talks about not growing up with his dad and his mom struggle. He talks about Techwood Homes. I mean, this has been a guy who's been loving and caring and, you know, of course, a capitalist, right? He's about making money and nothing wrong with that. I don't success shame people for making money. But this new Trumpian approach, Lisa, is not something we've seen before. And you know what I'm going to say is that the one thing I haven't heard B-Rob or any Republicans talk about, and this is what Democrats we can't do. No one has talked about his age, Lisa. Have you noticed that? No one has talked about his age. No one has said that. So, you know, when I look at Mike Thurman and people, you know, like to say, oh, he's experienced, he's well known, you know, well respected. You know, Republicans have said that he's the person that they fear the most. And we always kind of say, well, is he too old? Is he the Biden? No one has talked about Rick Jackson's age. And so it will be very interesting to see what Chris Carr and Burt Jones and Raffensperger do, because let's not let our listeners forget that he went after Raffensperger in a very, very aggressive ad, basically calling him Judah and calling him a traitor, you know, calling him, you know, saying that he turned his back on Trump, he turned his back on the Republican Party. So there are a lot of millionaires, Lisa, and now a billionaire running for governor on the Republican side.
Why is that, quickly, Brian? Why haven't we heard the age messaging in after his announcement?
We're 48 hours in.
There's plenty of time left. Yeah.
Right. Okay. The rest of the field, to Tharon's point, didn't know this was coming.
Right.
There's no Oppo file on Rick Jackson that the other campaigns are going to deploy. There's no message development that's been done behind the scenes for when he got in. He's caught everybody flat-footed. We're going to see the arguments made against him by Burt Jones, particularly. He's been the most, sharp-elbowed with Rick Jackson so far. And Rick Jackson's been the most sharp-elbowed with Burt Jones, at least in his comments.
10 seconds. 10 seconds. All right.
He called Burt lazy in his
Okay, we got to go, guys. Thank you so much for checking in, as always.
Have a good day.
Have a day.